Hi there. The goal in retirement isn't to spend as little money as possible. I think the goal is to make sure every dollar you do spend is buying something that truly matters to you. Because there's a big difference between being frugal and spending with intention. Folks, I'm retired and I still pay attention to where my money goes. But over time, I've learned something important. There's a difference, a big difference between protecting your retirement and letting fear control your spending. So really, what's the difference? Here's a simple way to look at it. A frugal person is usually focused on spending less. An intentional spender is focused on spending on what matters the most. Frugal person might say, I'm not buying that, it costs too much. And an intentional spender might say, I'm not buying that because it doesn't bring enough value to my life. One is focused on saving money. The other is focused on using money as a tool. And in retirement, that difference matters. Being frugal isn't a bad thing. It's not. In fact, being frugal can protect your retirement. It means being smart about the money you already have. It can mean avoiding waste. This means not spending money, time, or your resources on things that don't really add up. It might work like this: using what you already own instead of automatically buying something new. Repairing something when it makes financial sense instead of just replacing it. Canceling subscriptions. I know we've talked about this one before. Planning purchases instead of buying on impulse. Using your leftovers from the refrigerator instead of throwing the food away. Maybe it's comparing prices and making sure you aren't overpaying for something. Folks, frugality is about asking, is this purchase actually worth it? How about saying no a little more often? A frugal person learns that every yes is going to cost them something. Sometimes saying no means no to impulse purchases, no to upgrading something that still works, like your iPhone maybe. No to spending money just because you're bored. And yeah, I've been guilty of doing that. No to trying to keep up with what everybody else has. I did that for the longest time. It just doesn't work. Because folks, the truth is you don't have to buy everything you can afford. Stretching every dollar means making your money go as far as possible. It could mean buying groceries on sale and planning meals around what you already have in your cabinets. Comparing prices before making a large purchase. Think dishwasher or washer or dryer or refrigerator. Using discounts, rewards, or even senior benefits when they make sense. Now, I'm not saying go buy something that's on sale and it's 15 miles away. That doesn't make sense. Taking care of your home, your car, and your personal belongings so they last longer. Choosing the best value instead of always choosing the cheapest option. Folks, being frugal doesn't mean buying the cheapest thing. Sometimes the cheapest option costs you more in the long run. But intentional spending looks different. Intentional spending is about asking a different question. Not how little can I spend, but is this the best use of my money? Because retirement is not about just saving money, folks. It's also about using your money to improve your life. One of the biggest things you can spend money on in retirement is your health. Because without your health, it's hard to enjoy anything else. Sometimes spending money on better food, fitness, medical care, or things that make life easier, it's not an expense. It's actually an investment. Experiences are another example. Instead of buying only things you want to own, you're spending money on things you're going to remember. It could be taking a trip, going on a cruise, going out to dinner with friends or your family, visiting somewhere you've always wanted to see. How about learning a new hobby, going to concerts, shows, or events of some kind? Creating memories with your grandchildren. That's what I'm working on. The interesting thing about experiences is that many purchases lose value over time, but memories, they become more valuable. Being frugal does not mean always buying the cheapest option. Sometimes spending a little more upfront saves you money in the long run, saves you frustration and time. A quality item that lasts years can be a better financial decision than buying the cheapest thing over and over again. The question isn't what costs the least today. I think the better question is what gives me the best value over time. Another part of intentional spending is knowing when convenience is worth paying for. This doesn't mean spending money on every shortcut. It means asking, does this make my life easier, healthier, or more enjoyable? Some examples. Paying for grocery delivery if carrying bags to the car has become more difficult. Hiring someone to handle your yard work if it saves you energy or prevents injury. My wife, she won't let me climb ladders anymore, so cleaning our gutters, they're out. Now I have to hire someone to do it. And I'm not upset about it. Paying a little more for a direct flight instead of spending hours dealing with connections. Buying a meal occasionally because you'd rather spend that time with your family or your friends. I even budget for eating out each month. And once we hit that budget limit, we don't eat out anymore. Using services that reduce stress and give you more time to enjoy retirement, like a ride service. The goal of retirement, folks, isn't to spend nothing. It's not about denying yourself everything. It's not. Frugality helps protect your money. Intentional spending helps you enjoy your life. The best retirement is finding the balance. Spend less on things that don't matter, so you have more freedom to spend on the things that do matter. Because, folks, the purpose of money in retirement isn't just to have the biggest number in your account. It's to help you live the life you work so hard to reach. So before you go, I'd like to hear from you. When you think about your retirement spending, are you more focused on being frugal or spending with intention? What's the one thing you've decided is worth spending money on because it truly improves your life? Leave a comment down below. I'd really like to hear what you've learned since your retirement. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing. Here on Retired Under Budget, we talk about practical ways to protect your money while still enjoying the retirement you work so hard for. So, thanks for spending some of your time with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.